Hi there, folks. Welcome to the podcast. This, of course, is Stinchfield. I'm Grant Stinchfield. I have what may be one of the most important podcasts I've done in a long time because it raises questions about authority in America, what we can believe and what we can't believe. I want to specifically focus today on the Cybertruck bomber, alleged bomber. And I'm going to call him an alleged bomber because I've been digging deep into this situation with Matthew Livelsberger, and I'm not convinced he's responsible for this bombing outside of Trump Tower in Las Vegas. A lot of things leading me to believe that somehow this is a setup job. The information we're getting cannot be true based on factual assessments of what we're now seeing from the video, from his emails, mistakes that he had made in some of these emails, and so many other anomalies in this case. We're going to break them all down for you, including the anomaly of this new video here. This is a different angle of the explosion. Now, I want you to watch carefully as it explodes over and over again, because in the end, what you see here on the flash, there he is in the screen. His head is fully intact. We're told he basically blew his brains open with a 50 cal Desert Eagle. His face would not be intact, and his head would not be upright like that if he had shot himself. Nobody had really heard the gunshots either. We're not hearing any reports of that. And if you look carefully at this video as we play it, his head moves before the explosion. Now, we're told he was dead, but if you watch very, very carefully, his head moves as we slow it down here. Now, this, folks, is curious to say the least, doesn't add up to say the least, and why, I might add, is there not the 17 seconds leading up to this? We're getting the video of the explosion, but we're not getting the video of the Cybertruck pulling up. I would offer this up. Cybertrucks can drive themselves. Now, Elon Musk comes out and says you've got to be alert when you drive your Cybertruck. Could they get around that? Is there a summons mode? I'm told there is a summons mode, meaning you summon the vehicle to a certain location. I don't know. A lot of questions. Here's what I really don't know. Is the motive behind it? I can't figure out Matthew Livelsberger's motive behind it, if he's the one ultimately responsible. And I can't figure out a motive to set this up. We'll go through a lot of the possible motives, but honestly, when I break it down, none of them really make sense to me. All I know is when I go through the facts in this case is that nothing seems to be adding up. And wait till you hear what happened to his Signal chat as well. So we're going to talk about all of this today. Before we jump into this, folks, I want to remind you about my friends over at Colonial Metals Group. We are going into the Trump era. Now is a great time to start think about putting your money into precious metals. Colonial Metals Group can help you, whether it's a 401k or an IRA. They can help you put your money there and create a safe haven, a portfolio protection maneuver. Remember, gold skyrocketed during the Trump era. I expect that to be the same thing now. If you want a free gold guide to explain to you why this is the case, I urge you to go to freegoldguide.com/Grant. freegoldguide.com/Grant, 800-458-7356, or just hit the QR code up in the corner of the screen here and it'll take you right to the website. Colonial Metals Group, I know these guys, I trust these guys, a lot of gold companies out there, but Colonial Metals has been a trusted partner of not just this podcast, but also my Rumble podcast and Rumble viewership, Rumble as a whole. Colonial Metals Group, you're thinking about investing in gold and precious metals, think about using Colonial Metals Group. All right, folks, with that, I want to get the party started here and get into this situation because there is another situation. That other situation is the fact that Matthew Livelsberger's passport was completely untouched. Now, we were told that this Cybertruck exploded beyond recognition, right? We're told this Cybertruck exploded. Matthew Livelsberger's body was charred beyond belief. And in fact, I'm going to ask you this. They got his DNA results back within a day. Now, last I checked, local police, even the feds, often takes months to get DNA tests back. Now, we're told his DNA did not match that of the son, who's 6 months old. Doesn't mean it's not Matthew Livelsberger in the cab of the Cybertruck. It only means he's not the father of the child who he thought he was, but still suspect to say the least. They get this DNA back. But again, the Cybertruck was disintegrated, basically. And you know, when you look at the explosion, how in the world are you getting a passport that is not burnt at all? You got the passport. You also have not burnt at all is his military ID. So his military ID is intact inside the truck. Oh, isn't that convenient? That all of his passports, his military ID, that's the only thing that survives the blast. Now, I'm not saying it couldn't survive the blast. I'm just telling you that it did, and you make your own assessment from this. Now, one of the things that I was interested in is that when you look at the original video, there was no real valet outside of the blast. So outside of Trump Tower. Now, I've been in that building before, and typically there is valet everywhere around that Trump hotel. No one there. We're told Matthew Livelsberger shot himself with that 50 cal Desert Eagle, which, by the way, would leave a signature. Not only would you hear it, you would see the muzzle flash before the explosion. We don't see that anywhere in the explosion videos. No one has reported hearing the gunshots. So, was he shot there? Was he shot someplace else? Did the Cybertruck drive him there remotely? Could somebody have hacked in to disable the alert function of the Cybertruck? I'm sure Elon's people can get to the bottom of it. I'm only asking questions. Now, a lot of people are going to say, Grant, this is totally conspiracy theory stuff. It's conspiracy theory stuff if I have a theory for you. Normally, I'm good at coming up with some kind of a theory. But right now, I don't have a theory. I don't know why Matthew Livelsberger would do this, especially when you read his email to Sean Ryan, or an alleged email to Sean Ryan, the podcaster who exposed this shortly after the blast, with this other gentleman, Shoemaker, Sam Shoemate, I guess his name is. And then the manifesto he left they got off his phone and in the vehicle. None of that makes sense. Why would somebody set this up? What were they doing? Doesn't really make sense either. You could say, all right, the military industrial complex wants to call a question to the drone stuff that Livelsberger was raising the warning flags of, that China's waging war on us, the White House is in trouble. This is all in his email. We'll get to his email here in a little bit. There's a better way to engage the military industrial complex than having a Green Beret, highly respected, by the way. Every Green Beret I've seen talk about this guy says this guy was a great soldier. And yes, he had moved out of special forces and into this drone program, but still at a low level in the drone deal, he wouldn't have had a lot of knowledge about what he was talking about in this email. Beyond that, I would ask you, why would you kill yourself twice? Why would you shoot yourself and then blow yourself up as well? Honestly, it doesn't make a lot of sense when you're talking about all of this. So now we get to the email that he sent Sean Ryan, right? This is the email here. Now, I'm going to read it to you, okay? And I'll put it up full on the screen because it's important that you hear it. You know what? Here's what I can do. Let me do this instead. I have, where is it? Sean reading the email, I believe. This is, well, This is him, I believe. I got to get my stuff straight here. Yeah, here is Sam Shoemate, okay, reading the email. All right.
But wow. Do you want to read the email?
Yep. So this email came in on December 31st at 10:42 a.m. That is Tuesday. He said, "In case I do not make it to my decision point or on to the Mexico border, I am sending this now. Please do not release this until 1 January and keep my identity private until then. First off, I am not under duress or hostile influence or control. My first car was a 2006 black Ford Mustang V6 for verification."
All right. Now, there's been some controversy over whether or not he owned that car. They couldn't find any versions of that car registered to him. Lots surrounding that. I'm not convinced he didn't own that car, but that's one of the situations. The other situation, though, is you hear right off the bat, in case I do not make it to my decision point or to the Mexico border, I'm sending this now. This is an email he wasn't saying he's going to kill himself. This is an email saying he's going to try to get to Mexico and that he's warning us. And then this issue of I'm not under duress or any influence or control. What manifesto ever says that in it? Every manifesto I've ever seen is people are explaining it. Not I'm not under any duress or control, unless you are and you're being told to write that. Now, let me just say this too before we get back to Sam Shoemate reading the email he got from, allegedly got from Matthew Livelsberger. This guy's military intelligence. We know that Sean Ryan, the podcaster, was also CIA. So now you got a CIA guy and a military intelligence guy that miraculously have gotten this email. There's a lot of people saying, are they being used by the apparatus? I don't necessarily believe they're lying or part of the making it up, but I believe they could be pawns in this, being used for this, and I'll let him keep reading it.
What we have been seeing with drones, he puts that in quotes, he says drones, is the operational use of gravitic propulsion systems powered aircraft by most recently China and the East Coast, but throughout history, the U.S. Only we in China have this capability. Our OPSEN, that's Operations Center, our OPSEN location for this activity is in the box below. China has been launching them from the Atlantic from submarines for years, but this activity recently has picked up. As of now, it is just a show of force, and they are using it similar to how they used the balloon for SIGINT and ISR, which are also part of the integrated comms system. There are dozens of those balloons in the air at any given time.
All right, I want to pause it 1 second right here, and I want you to look on your screen, if you can, closely. There's a cursor at the bottom of at given any time. Now, why would there be a cursor when you're reading an email that's a forwarded message? Unless you're copy pasting it, you can't have a cursor in there. And by the way, if you also look carefully down at the bottom, CENTCOM has a red underline under it, which means that's a spell check. But an email that's been sent does not spell check itself. That's only for the sender to spell check. So I don't know if this is a screenshot from when he was forwarding it to somebody else, but suspect to say the least.
The so what is because of the speed and stealth of these unmanned aircraft. They are the most dangerous threat to national security that has ever existed. They basically have an unlimited payload capacity and can park it over the White House if they wanted. It's checkmate.
All right, so that's saying there's warning about the drone systems. He's warning about a danger to America. He seems in all of his writings here to be a very patriotic guy, that this is not about President Trump, and I'll get into his manifesto. Clearly it says it's not about President Trump, but then you've got to ask, why would you use a Cybertruck, which is clearly a message to Elon Musk, outside of Trump Tower, clearly a message to President Trump, if you're saying pay attention to Elon and Trump, and you don't want to confuse the issue? That's the last place you do this, which, again, just doesn't make a lot of sense here if you're pro-Trump, pro-Elon, pro-Robert F. Kennedy Jr., which he does say. Now, this gravitic propulsion system, I'm not going to get into it deeply, but this has to do with somehow bending space behind you to propel something forward, bending the air. I mean, it's high level, basically what would sound like alien stuff. Whether it exists or not, I don't know. There's a lot of talk about it on the internet, but a lot of people say Matthew Livelsberger would not really have knowledge of this program at his low level capacity in the drone situation. So I'm going to get back to more of this email here in just a second, okay? But before I do, I want to tell you about my friends over at get21now.com. So get21now.com is freaking fabulous. Bitcoin, what is it? It's about ready to go over $102,000 again. If you don't want to take part in these wild fluctuations, get21now.com will help you invest in Bitcoin mining, all right? They guarantee you a 21% return on your investment, so you don't have to deal with the swings. You don't have to worry about the price of Bitcoin, where it's going, but you get to take part in the Bitcoin movement in about the safest way fashion. I'm not saying there's no risk, but I am telling you that you talk to these guys, they've lived up to their promises to me. I've invested with them. I get the money direct deposited into my bank account every month, and this has been like clockwork now for the last 5-6 months. And I am so happy with this. In fact, I'm getting ready to up my investment with them because it's working so well. Where else can you get 21%? I've been running businesses and all this stuff. I do nothing but literally sit back and let them deposit money into my bank account every month. Get21now.com. I urge you to talk to them. If they call you, call them back. They're very, very busy. Sign up on their website. They'll call you back in fairly short order. But talk to them about this. This is a great deal. Up to 21% annualized interest on your investment paid monthly. Get21now.com. The name of the company, by the way, is NFN8, NFN8.com. And I really like these guys a lot. I trust them. All right. So we're talking about this email that was sent from Matthew Livelsberger, allegedly, to Sean Ryan and Sam Shoemate. Both are intelligence guys. Take that for what you want, okay? He continued talking about the email or reading it for us.
U.S. government needs to give the history of this, how we are employing it and weaponizing it, how China is employing them and what the way forward is. China is poised to attack anywhere in the East Coast. I've been followed for over a week now from likely Homeland or FBI, and they are looking to move on me and are unlikely going to let me cross into Mexico, but won't because they know I am armed and I have a massive VBID.
A VBID, by the way, is a vehicle IED, basically, a vehicle bomb. Now, I have gotten emails like this, not this exactly, from people that I would consider lunatics, mentally ill. You have people that are bipolar. They think they're being followed. They'll tell you the government has implanted things in their head. And I mean it. Doing a popular podcast, doing the Real America's Voice show, the radio show out in LA, I get these emails all the time. I usually pay them no attention. This idea that the government's following him falls right into that kind of delusion state. I'm going to be honest with you. But as we go forward here, a guy that is as seasoned as he is in the special forces, he gets some things wrong in here, which I don't think a Green Beret would.
Pause right there for a second. So he says a massive VBID. When I was talking to the FBI yesterday, they didn't know what a VBID was. I had to explain what that acronym meant, literally.
You fucking serious?
Dead serious. I said it twice, and he goes, you said that word VBID. Can you tell me what that is? For your audience, a VBID, for your audience who has not been in the GWOT for the last 20 years, a VBID is a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. In layman's terms, a car bomb, what we saw at Trump Tower. So, backing up, he says, I am armed and have a massive VBID. I've been trying to maintain a very visible profile and have kept my phone, and they are definitely digitally tracking me. Here's where he gets into the other stuff, and this is where we had to redact the names. Well,
all right, but here's the only problem with this. You'll hear later on that in talking with Sam Shoemate, he does everything he can to hide where he is. So he doesn't want you to know. He encrypts his identity. why is he encrypting his identity if he wants everyone to know about all of this stuff? So in one phase, he's encrypting his identity. In another phase, he's not encrypting his identity. Again, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Your producer redacted the names. I have knowledge of this program and also war crimes that were covered up during airstrikes in Nimruz province, Afghanistan in 2019 by the admin, DOD, DEA, and CIA. I conducted targeting for these strikes of over 125 buildings. 65 were struck because of civcas, that's civilian casualties, that killed hundreds of civilians in a single day. U.S. FORA continued strikes after spotting civilians on initial ISR. It was supposed to take 6 minutes and scramble all aircraft in CENTCOM.
All right, so two things here. He's a Green Beret who's working on targeting these buildings, allegedly. He uses the term U.S. FORA, which is U.S. Forces Afghanistan. But as a Green Beret, he would refer to himself as SOTFA, S-O-T-F-A, which would be Special Operations Team Afghanistan. Okay? So SOTFA versus US 4A, not a big deal. It tells me that whoever wrote this email is certainly familiar with all the terms and lingo, but they get that wrong. I'm not sure a Green Beret would get that wrong. Then he says, scramble, 6 minutes to scramble all aircraft in CENTCOM. Now, CENTCOM includes Iraq, Syria, Iran. 6 minutes to scramble. It's laughable. It would be impossible to do that. And he would know that as well. The other side of this is I've talked to many members of the armed forces who served in Afghanistan, and to a fault, America was so hesitant to target civilians that terrorists got away more times than not, that even the hint of it, you were scolded if you were even thinking about going to a spot where they were targeting civilians. So this idea of killing multiple civilians isn't adding up in a lot of Green Berets' minds. It isn't adding up in a lot of Special Forces guys' minds because the United States went out of its way to make sure that wasn't happening. We'll finish it.
The UN basically called these war crimes, but the administration made them disappear. I was part of that cover-up with US FORA, an agent, redacted, of the DEA. So I don't know if my abduction attempt is related to either. I worked with redacted IO staff on this as well as the response to Bala Murghab. Redacted commander at the time, redacted can validate this. You need to elevate this to the media so we avoid a world war because this is a mutually assured destruction situation. Then he says, for vetting, my LinkedIn is Matt Berg or Matthew Livelsberger, an active duty 18 Zulu out of 110, that's 1st Battalion, 10th Special Forces Group. My profile is public. I have.
All right, so he goes out of his way to prove who he is, to validate who he is, but he uses some pretty shoddy validations. Your LinkedIn isn't going to validate anything because anybody can just go read somebody else's LinkedIn. And he talks about the car, but then the car doesn't add up because and he did own, what was it, a Mustang early on, but it wasn't the same year. So that didn't make any sense. A lot of this is crazy. Now, here's the real kicker in all of this. And this is where I said, what in the world is going on? He apparently changed his signal safety number the day before, a couple days before the bombing. Now, how do we know this? There were Green Berets on Signal who were in a chat with this guy beforehand, in a group chat. And you get awareness when you change your safety number in Signal. This is a screenshot of that, where he changes his safety number. And then after the bombing, he changes his profile name. Now, how do you change your profile name on Signal? A highly encrypted app, by the way. Matt Berg changed their profile name to Matt. Your safety with Matt number with Matt has changed. That was after the bombing. So you've got a Signal name change and safety number change, one before, one after. Unless someone hacked into your Signal, which everyone I've spoken to says Signal has never been hacked, which is why so many government employees, government operatives use Signal. So this Matt Shoemate continued to spell out some of the questions behind all of this, okay?
Very capable guy, but he loads the Tesla up, which Elon Musk brags about being bulletproof, right? So this is one of his selling points. It's bulletproof. We even saw Joe Rogan shoot an arrow at it and wasn't able to puncture this thing. So he loads up a Tesla knowing it's not explode like he wants it to with fireworks and a bunch of other junk when he can make a car bomb that's going to level this place. Here's what I think. The Army PAO is saying that the body inside the cab did not match the DNA of his child. All right. We also know they said he was shot by a desert eagle. We know that there was no signature when it rolled up. So nobody shot themselves when it rolled up to it. You would have seen a large signature. Mr. Guns and Gear, he's on X. He goes into this a lot in depth. He's a firearms expert and he talks about this. There's no signature. So this is what happens. You get a Tesla because you know it can drive itself to the hotel, the Trump Tower. You put a body in it, roll it up. You don't want to kill anybody because that's not the message you're trying to send. You're not trying to level the tower or kill a bunch of people. So you load it up with fireworks and a bunch of junk to send a message. And we know that his signal number or his signal safety number changed. That can't be done unless you're inside that signal account. And a lot of people conjecture, was the FBI inside his signal account, whatever else. But what if he accidentally changed his safety number, goofed up there? He rolled a body up in a Tesla specifically because a Tesla can drive itself up to the tower and did what he did to send a message to expose his stuff. And he's still alive out there somewhere.
All right. That's one theory. Now remember, Shoemate, military intelligence, Sean Ryan, CIA. But it's not really a great way to raise awareness about drones by blowing up a Cybertruck in front of the guy that you love, President Trump, right? Trump Tower. So everything he said, I agree, is a plausible possibility. Put a dead body in there, load it up, send it to Trump Tower, send the message, all of these things. But why would Matthew Livelsberger do that? Or why would somebody else do it? Is still the big $20,000 question. Now, here's the manifesto that was found. This is not the email. This is basically Livelsberger's explanation. I'll read this to you, okay? We are the United States of America, the best country people to ever exist. But right now, we are terminally ill and headed towards collapse. True. We are crumbling because of lack of self-respect, morals, and respect for others. Greed and gluttony has consumed us. The top 1% decided long ago they weren't going to bring everyone else with them. You are cattle to them. You have strayed from family values and corrupted our minds, and I am a prime example of having it all but never being enough. A lot of us are just sitting around waiting to die. No sunlight, no steps, no fresh air, no hope. Our children are addicted to screens by the age of 2. We are filling our bodies with processed foods. So far, this sounds somewhat conservative, getting away from family values, the processed food stuff, embracing Robert F. Kennedy Jr., which he does later on here. This guy doesn't seem like he's anti-Trump, which is what we were basically told from the beginning, but that doesn't make any sense now. All right, we continue. Our population is too fat to join the military, yet we are facing a war with China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran before 2030. We must take these actions if we are going to make it past the next few years in one piece. We must end the war in Ukraine with negotiated settlement. It's the only way. Focus on strength and winning. Masculinity is good and men must be leaders. Strength is a deterrent and fear is the product. Weed out those in government or military who do not idolize number 2. That's masculinity, by the way. The income inequality in this country and cost of living is outrageous. The number of homeless on our streets, embarrassing and disgusting. Have some pride and take care of this. So he talks about income inequality, which is a conservative. I don't care if you have billionaires and middle class and how far there is in between. I just want everybody in the middle class. I want people to have the most success possible. I don't care if there's inequality between them. I just want to keep moving people out of poverty and into the middle class. He seems to care about income inequality. That's more of a leftist ideal. But he goes on here, clearly not a leftist, because look what he says next. He says, after the homeless we're obsessing about, have some pride and take care of this about the homeless. Stop obsessing over diversity. We are all diverse, and DEI is a cancer. Thankfully, we rejected the DEI candidate, and we'll have a real president instead of a weekend at Bernie's. So here he's talking about he loves Trump. Biden is a dead body, a corpse. We don't need weekend at Bernie's. We need a real leader who doesn't care about DEI, who is the alpha male. Again, why would you blow yourself up in front of Trump Tower in a Tesla? We must move on from the culture of weakness and self-enrichment perpetrated by our senior political and military leaders. We are done with the blatant corruption. Our soldiers are done fighting wars without end states or clear objectives. And here's the big part, folks. This is what I want you to listen to. This may be the most important. It doesn't help me figure out why he did it, but it does give us some indication of how he did it. He says this was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives? What did I personally do now? I needed to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took. Consider this last sunset of 24 and my actions the end of our sickness and a new chapter of health for our people. Rally around Trump, Musk, Kennedy, and ride this wave to the highest hegemony for all Americans. We are second to none. Hegemony, I had to look up. It's basically about being number one. Group of people that are number one. And that's America. He's saying America first. We are exceptional. We are an exceptional nation. So that's a fascinating manifesto that goes against the entire original narrative. Now, again, to recap, you've got head movement here. Let me do this. Why is this? There we go. You've got head movement before the bomb goes off. Okay, from a new angle. How would the head be intact if he shot himself with a 50 cal Desert Eagle? You see that? There's no gun there. He looks like he's alive. His face is completely intact. He's not slumped over. If you shot yourself with a 50 cal, it would be. You've got the emails that aren't really adding up. You've got two basically intelligence operatives that have blown the lid on this, which means to me they may just be useful pawns. The cursor and the spell check inside the email doesn't make upset. Using the U.S. Forces versus U.S. Special Operations Team monikers doesn't make any sense. Burned beyond recognition, but then again, we look at his passport, and we know that how is the passport going to survive a car fire that burnt everything to smithereens? What does Sam Shoemate, rather, say about him being called out for being a potential pawn in all of this? I'm going to play that for you in just a moment. But before I do, folks, I want to tell you about my friends over at Patriot Mobile. I have a Patriot Mobile phone. I love it. It's great. This phone is my lifeblood, and the service is fabulous. Why? Because I pick which network I want to be on, and even better than that, I have 2 different networks on this phone. It's called the Patriot One plan. 1 phone, 2 lines. Okay? Now, why Patriot Mobile? Why? 100% U.S.-based customer service. But even more than that, I feel like I'm part of an army. You are all our Stinchfield's army. Patrick says, go Stinchfield Army. Thank you, Patrick, for saying that. You want to be part of Stinchfield's army? Make phone calls on a Stinchfield's army phone. That's a Patriot mobile phone. America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They put their money where their mouths are. They are behind us 100%. So here's the deal. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. 972-PATRIOT is the number to call them on. 972-PATRIOT. You tell them Grant Stinchfield sent you. Use the promo code GRANT, and I promise you, you will not regret it. You're going to get a free first month service, and that's a big savings. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. 972-PATRIOT. Again, tell them I sent you. All right, as we continue to break this down, this Matt Shoemate, who is military intelligence, went on to respond to the accusations that they made this email up. They concocted it, or it's part of a bigger scheme. It is what's being talked about out there, so I'll play his response to that. He went on with a fellow veterans podcast. This guy was, I believe, a pilot of A-10, something like that, but this is Shoemate responding to allegations that he made it up.
You know, I can protest all day long. He does protest too much, though, I think is the saying, and I'm not going to try to defend myself. Look, I get it. I'm an intelligence officer, and that already sets me back. Keep in mind that intelligence officers in the Army are not the same as intelligence officers in the agency or anywhere else. Okay, I'm half retarded as it is, but regardless, I'm an intelligence officer, and oh man, I must be a plant by the government. I'm not. I don't know any other way to say it. If you knew my personal views on the government, if you went through my timeline and you saw the stuff I post, if you even read the story about me, if you Google Breitbart and Sam Shoemate and you read the article that comes up at the very top, and you see what the DOD and the Army did to me, they tried to label me as an insider threat, as a foreign intelligence threat. They came after me hard. There was a 3-star general and a West Point professor who illegally used government resources in a non-sanctioned investigation behind the scenes to identify who I was, to reach out to CID, counterintelligence, all these agencies, and try to smash me. These people were trying to put me in jail, okay, for exposing what they were doing in the military. They were trying to freaking put me in jail and in my career. And when they actually opened the official investigation, because they took all of the stuff that they had compiled, which didn't go anywhere really. They pushed it over to 3 Corps, which was my 3-star chain of command, opened an investigation into me, a legal one. And after 8 months of an investigation, somebody handed me a non-redacted 15-6 investigation that had been done on me, and I saw everything that had happened. So my lawyer hands that off to a reporter who did her due diligence and was like, holy crap, and wrote an article about it, and we exposed what they were doing. And this person ended up having...
All right, so he goes on about how he's a victim of government. Maybe that's when they flipped him, one could say, is when they had all this stuff. Then they flip you, and now you're working for them. I don't know if he is or not. I tend to think probably not. I think he may be a pawn in something bigger. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's Sean Ryan, who's a CIA guy and a military intelligence guy, that get the email that blows the lid on a lot of things. I don't think that's a coincidence. And I don't think it's a coincidence that 2 IDs, a passport and a military ID, survive the blast and nothing else survives. His DNA doesn't match. Then you've got Signal Chat, where his safety number changes. Then after the blast, his profile name changes. How does that add up? So Q fella in the Rumble chat writes, so did the FBI write all this? Is the FBI responsible? I don't know. Here's the thing, folks. I don't know. All of this will be said, Grant, this is a conspiracy theory. Well, no, it's not. Everything I'm telling you here is factual. Everything I've run down is absolute fact, either backed up by video, backed up what's in there's a cursor in the email, there's spell check in the email, there's Signal Chat changed. His head is intact before the blast. All of this stuff is fact. We don't have the video leading up to the blast, but he supposedly shot himself before that. Why aren't they giving us that video? There's a camera at Trump Tower that faces the front of the Tesla. We don't have that video. Where is it? His passport survives. He misuses terms. He claims his stuff's about drones, but he wouldn't really be in a position to have the knowledge about the drones that he has. None of this adds up, but I cannot tell you why. So it's not a conspiracy theory if I don't have a theory. So maybe all you can help me with this. Maybe all you come up with a philosophy of who set him up, if that's what happened. Why would he do this to himself, if that's what happened? Why would he kill somebody else, put the body in, make it think it's him with a Cybertruck in front of Trump Tower when we have an email from him, a manifesto basically saying he loves President Trump, let's follow his lead? Folks, it doesn't make sense. This plot thickens, twists, and turns, and it's wild. And then to make matters worse, the guy was on a reality show? A reality show. With Tim Kennedy, by the way, who's a nice guy, former Special Forces dude, famous. This Matthew Livelsberger was on a reality show.
It's a reality show that pits teams of elite soldiers from around the world against each other.
Matt and Tim from the U.S. Army Special Forces, better known as the Green Berets.
Matthew Livelsberger and his partner Tim Kelly, both Green Berets, appeared on the Ultimate Soldier Challenge 12 years ago on the History Channel. They not only won, it wasn't even close.
You know, for television, they always try to make it a little bit more competitive, but we swept the whole entire show.
When he appeared on the show, Livelsberger used a shortened version of his name, Matt Berg. So it took Tim Kelly a while to put 2 and 2 together.
And then I saw a Matt Berg with a older photo of him, and I was like, oh no, dude, I know that guy. And then it just like tore my heart out because he was a really great Green Beret.
And what was he like?
He was all the things that you would expect from a Green Beret.
At one point during the show, Livelsberger lost his cool in the 90-plus degree heat.
I'm about to throw up, man. I got heat exhaustion, man. I need to take this off right now.
Tim Kelly says he hadn't heard from Livelsberger for a few years.
It just categorically does not make sense. From everything that I have heard, he was universally valued by his team, by his peers. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense, and it is just horrifically heartbreaking.
That it is. A lot of Green Berets are now in chats trying to break this stuff down. Guys that served with him, all of them saying, this is not him. This doesn't make any sense. And just to show you how bad the media is, that's Inside Edition. His name's not Tim Kelly. His name is Tim Kennedy. And they get the reporter calling him Tim Kelly throughout the whole thing. You think somebody would catch that? No. And maybe just for show you who this guy was, he's in the airport. I found this video online of him and his girlfriend. I'll just play it for you only because it's interesting.
We're at the airport, posted up, midnight red-eye flight. Sarah Beans, old Matty B.
Trying not to be weird.
Not to be weird.
Not allowed to be weird or embarrass him. I can't do that.
We're judging people in front of the walking thing where you can choose to walk, you can choose to stand still, you can choose to
pick a side, people. Pick a side.
You can walk aside it if you want some exercise and just be devoid of technology if you choose.
We're so lazy as a society that we need moving floor instead of actually walking.
We've got our cell phone charger here, mobile power. It's called being a power traveler. Doing things.
I don't agree with
It's all me. All me. We're on our way.
Power traveler.
Puerto Rico.
Power traveler.
Costa Rica, it's the same thing, same place, same people, same food, same island.
No, it's not the same as Costa Rica. It's actually very different, I believe. It's a different place.
So, that's him and his girlfriend. Seems like a decent guy. I can also say this. They talk a lot about overweight Americans and all this thing. Well, at the end, Matt Livelsberger had gained a lot of weight. Wasn't like him, because clearly in this photo, he's very thin, in great shape. He's with Tim Kennedy 12 years ago, great shape, all that. He gained some weight along the way. All of it doesn't add up. Tonight on the Real America's Voice show, I've got a Green Beret coming on who was in communication with him and has really broken a lot of this stuff down to explain what possibly could be going on. Though the theory of a motive is still very, very elusive. So again, folks, I would ask you, if you have ideas for a motive, let me know, because I'm in the dark. And I'll leave you with this. It doesn't add up. Nothing adds up when it comes to this, all right? The facts in this case do not match what police and the FBI want us to believe about it. Or maybe all that's part of the psyop. Something's going on here. We're going to get to the bottom of it, I promise you. And we're going to keep following this story. And I am tonight on Real America's Voice. All right. All right. Let me see if I got. Let me do this. I want to get to January 6th because today's a big day. President Trump, ultimately, I think at this point, he is not. This election has not been certified yet at the live taping of this podcast, but should be, providing the Democrats don't do something completely outrageous and wild. But I want to get to January 6th. Because I call it Patriots Day. This is a very important day in our nation's history. We had hundreds, thousands of Americans who made great sacrifice for what I believe was our Boston Tea Party. That's what I call it now. Modern day Boston Tea Party is what January 6th was. So we're going to talk about that and President Trump in just a moment. I've got an interview with a very good friend of mine that I did about January 6th, Jonathan Strand. He got caught up in this, refused to plead guilty, got a year. Thankfully, the Supreme Court cut his 3-year sentence short. His boss, Simone Gold, the doctor at the time, took a plea deal. She got 3 months. They threw John Strand in prison for a year. I'm going to play that interview for you in a moment. But before I do, I was talking about staying in shape and making sure you're on point with all that. Today's January 6th. Today is the day you should start your New Year's resolutions. Energize Health is offering a 555 challenge. That means $5, 5 days, 5 pounds. That's all it is. They guarantee this. It's a great program. Go to energizehealth.com/grant, energizehealth.com/grant. Take part in this My 555 challenge, and you won't regret it. Energize Health is about intercellular hydration. It's about changing the way you look at life, how you go through life. Yes, there's some workout changes, but it's super easy. Yes, so there's some diet changes, but I still eat many of the foods that I always ate before. I still enjoy life. These aren't radical changes. They're scientific changes that'll change your life. It changed my life. 15 pounds in 2 weeks, and I've kept it off. God bless the folks at Energized Health. EnergizeHealth.com/grant. Pay them a visit. Learn about cellular hydration, okay? EnergizeHealth.com/grant. Do it today. All right, January 6th. We are getting all kinds of nonsensical bull crap from the likes of so many out there, including Adam Schiff. I thought I had a soundbite from Adam Schiff, but I must have. I guess I don't have it. He was basically calling into question January 6th, and if President Trump pardons them, President Trump's going to go down the road of anti-democracy. Adam Schiff, I don't care what you think. Here's what I want everyone to remember. I want everyone to remember what President Trump said that day on January 6th. Again, January 6th is Patriots Day. We should honor the thousands of men and women who gave up their freedom due to a tyrannical left-wing government, a weaponized DOJ that went after them with all hell's vengeance to put them in prison and beyond. Grandmothers, grandfathers, young kids, mothers, fathers, you name it. They wanted them in prison, all because of what? An unorganized tour of the Capitol? I want to remind you what President Trump said that day, and you tell me if this is an insurrection.
Know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our election.
Peacefully and patriotically, let your voices be heard, okay? Then, of course, there was the video no one saw because all the social media companies took it down.
We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great moment peace.
They took that off the internet. So many things were prophetic in that little speech there that he said. We cannot play into the hands of them. I believe January 6th was a setup job. They played into the hands of the people who set it up. We now know that there were FBI informants that were in the crowd, 20-something of them. So, again, he knew what was going on. A fraudulent election. President Trump was vindicated. He won this election with 77 million votes. Joe Biden got 85 million votes the last time around. Where did the other 10 million votes go? Where did they go? They just disappeared from Kamala Harris? Of course not, because it was fraudulent. So don't ever forget this. Don't ever forget what they did to us. Don't ever forget what they tried to tell you. Don't ever forget the lies they told you. The tyranny they laid down on all of us in order to do what? Steal another election. And that's what they wanted. They wanted to steal this next election, but you made it too big to rig. So thankfully, President Trump will take office January 20th, providing the Secret Service can keep him safe. And I hate to even have to use that, but it's true. The Secret Service has to keep this man safe because they will do everything they can to stop him. So I told you I interviewed my buddy Jonathan Strand. Jonathan Strand, this is him talking about that day, what he hopes from President Trump when President Trump comes back into office on January 20th. This was just Friday evening on the Real America's Voice show. Enjoy.
Thanks for having me on, Grant. Always good to be with you.
Boy, John, I can't help but think you and I have been talking for years now, including from when you go into prison and before and you get out. We are now just a few days from President Trump taking office. He said that he would issue pardons and commutations and all of these things. How hopeful are you that that actually happens?
Well, it's not about hope as much as it is understanding what needs to happen and having a plan to execute that. And we have a plan. This is a new year and this is a whole new ball game, right? So we are committed to completely dismantling the fraud and the lies of the J6 insurrection narrative. We are committed to supporting the incoming Trump administration and Kash Patel to investigate the investigators and hopefully root out the corruption of the FBI, the DOJ, and et cetera. But I'm excited to announce tonight that we have formed We Are J6, and you can find us at wearej6.com. We are resolved to deliver restorative justice for J6 defendants. So this is a strategic alliance for victim recovery and government accountability. We are actual J6ers. This is an effort led by myself and 3 other well-established and respected J6 defendants. And we are inviting all J6 defendants to register and participate in this effort, as well as inviting the general public to register as advocates and help us support the mission for restorative justice.
All right, wearej6.com. I want everyone to pay a visit to that. And then I have to ask you, has anyone been in contact with you from the incoming Trump administration? Or have you heard of anyone from the Trump administration starting the process of researching all of these cases? Because let's face it, just about every case is going to be unique.
Yes, there are many questions and challenges in terms of reviewing the specificity of each case. However, what's really important is to remember the constitutional framework of this and the greater context, right? So again, as I've been saying, if you were an FBI insurrectionist, you got a paycheck. If you were a MAGA insurrectionist, you got sent to prison. That's not just a slogan. That's literally what happened. The IG report explicitly confirmed that FBI operatives committed the same allegedly unlawful activity as those who were charged and put in prison, but the FBI agents were not. So that's a violation of selective prosecution. You also have a sweeping violation of the Sixth Amendment guarantee of impartial adjudication. Every single J6 case was tried in D.C., which is objectively radically partial, not impartial. So there are fundamental constitutional reasons why all J6 cases should be pardoned and or vacated and exonerated. As far as the complexities, of course, we'll review those, and I'm sure the Trump administration will as well. But what we need to do as American citizens is we need to unite behind the truth and behind our values of liberty and justice for all, and we have to mean it, right? Benjamin Franklin told us that this is a republic if we can keep it, but it will crumble without true justice, and restorative justice we can have if we will take it.
I want to remind everybody at home just what you did, John Strand, because Dr. Simone Gold, who's been on this program before, was offered a plea deal. She took it and unfortunately had to plead guilty to these no crimes of wandering through the Capitol. She got basically 3 months. You refused to take the deal because you say you're innocent, and you are. You got, what was the total? A year? It was over a year, and it was only because of the Supreme Court ruling you got out a little early, correct?
Yeah, I was sentenced to almost 3 years, served exactly 1 year, and then vindicated at the U.S. Supreme Court and released so that I could, thankfully, help lead the charge to champion the cause of all of these innocent and peaceful protesters and everyone else who was there for whatever reason. Everyone was caught up in a very unfortunate event that is clearly instigated by government misconduct at various levels, and then a unprecedented historic DOJ witch hunt, which has egregiously abused their authority, violated the law, and otherwise violated many constitutional rights. So for those constitutional right violations, restorative justice means that we will be researching and preparing civil litigation on behalf of J6 defendants for civil damages. That's just one part of the restorative justice plan. Of course, step one is immediate commutations of all sentences and release of every single person related to this so that they can go home where they belong, and pardons where that's necessary. But then, the justice must continue, and we're committed to that effort.
Let me play one clip before I let you go, because there were so many people whose lives were affected, especially some young people, don't have a lot of money, people like Felicia Knoll. She was basically the same thing, got caught up in a lot of this stuff. I want you to listen to what she's going through.
Yeah.
It seems to be never ending. Just when I think there's going to be a little bit of a breath, I get notified, I get pulled back in, I get re-questioned, I get everything. I'm out of prison for the second time, which is nice. I'm off of my ankle monitor for also the second time, which is nice. I'm still on probation. I'm still paying restitution.
John, her story is like so many others, not quite as bad as yours, but bad in and of its own right. Yep. In the last 20 seconds you can for me, your message to President Trump as we head into him taking office.
My message is the same to President Trump as it is to the entire American nation. This was a constitutional travesty, a weaponized government that must never happen again. And the consequence, the cost to these people, all of them have experienced catastrophic damages. So wearej6.com is going to help tell those stories and help inform and educate the nation to understand the actual extent of the damage and why restorative justice is nonpartisan, absolutely necessary and justified, and will help to bring healing to this nation as we fully understand the truth of J6 and resolve ourselves to uphold justice for all Americans.
Well, I tell you this all the time. Your strength, your resolve, your quest to make things right on behalf of not just you, but everybody else that was affected by this, it's awe-inspiring, buddy. It really is, and I appreciate, as always, you coming on the program. Happy New Year to you. Let's hope 2025 is much better than the last 4 years were.
That's right. Amen. And thanks for supporting us, Grant. God bless you.
Absolutely. All right. So, of course, we're going to support the J6ers. It's one of the main goals of this program, and I will not rest until every single one of them is pardoned or has sentences commuted. Some of them, I'll be honest, maybe got a little rough and tumble. That West Terrace got a little hairy, but if you go back through all the video, even the guys that were rough and tumble were like straightening the hats of officers' helmets and demanding we get water for officers when there's this pushing scrum. It looked like a rugby scene. Nobody was really getting injured. And so, look, any punishment that those people would have gotten at all for putting any hands at all on police officers would not be now 4 years, and many of them are still in prison, and we have more J6ers that were killed that day to the zero of officers that were killed, and still the media pushes this idea that officers were killed that day. It's upsetting to me, to say the least. I want to tell you, folks, about my friends over at the Wellness Company. the wellness company has these medical kits with prescription medications inside them. I'm in Dallas right now. My son sent me, we're supposed to get 10 inches of snow on Friday. I can't believe this is really true. He may be trying to fib me, but 10 inches of snow in Dallas. That will shut this city down. Well, I'm ready. I have power supply. I've got ammunition. I've got food. I've got water. And I have prescription medications. God forbid I need something like this to stop something very serious. And there's the most common 8 prescription medications in here, antivirals, antiparasitics, including ivermectin, that will help you, including this little blue guidebook in here with the safe use of all of it. Drugstores closed down, no big deal. I got it covered. And I got that big giant field kit too. It's over there. I'll show it to you next time. But I'm ready. You should be ready too. So here's what you do. Go to twc.health/grant. twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. Get those prescription medications and prepare your family. It is about always being prepared. I hope you never have to use them. I hope they expire and you got to end up buying a new kit. But here's the deal. Get it. So when you need it, you have it. And go through all the medications. Study them. So if it's an emergency right away and you got to grab one of these medications, you know what you're doing when it comes to it. twc.health/grant. All right, lastly, I will leave you. The Golden Globes were last night. I did not watch. My buddy Larry Elder, the great radio host on Salem Radio, says he watches MSNBC, so you don't have to. I watch clips of MSNBC. Occasionally, I will find myself watching because I hate them, but I need to see them for work and see what they're pushing and doing. I don't watch the Golden Globes. I'm sorry. I can't bring myself to see all these millionaires patting themselves on the back. But I heard about this Glazier, I think is her name. She's a comedian, and she brought some heat.
Challenger's Girl, oh my God, it was so good. I mean, that movie was more sexually charged than Diddy's credit card. I mean, seriously. Oh, no, I know, I'm sorry. I'm upset too. The after party's not going to be as good this year, but we have to move on. I know it, Stanley Tucci Freak-Off just doesn't have the same ring to it, but no baby oil this year, just lots of olive oil, okay?
I mean, awkward, yes, but so perfect because I love seeing all of them squirm. How many people in that room will be on the Diddy list? And folks, I'm telling you, the Diddy list will be released. Once my buddies all get in to office now with President Trump, we're gonna be in a good spot. I'm not going to say it's going to be smooth sailing because the left is going to bring everything they have. And maybe, I'm not going to say now than before the election because that was the fight of our lives. But as much as the election, we've got to stay engaged and give them backup because they're going to need it. The next 2 years are going to be wild, folks. Wild. All right, that's going to do it for us. As I mentioned to you, the Real America's Voice show tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. I want you to tune in. I've got a Green Beret who have dug in to this Cybertruck mystery, nothing adding up. That Green Beret will lay out all the evidence he found for us. Fascinating stuff. And so I want you to turn in to the Real America's Voice show then. All right, folks, God bless all of you. I hope you had a great weekend. Happy Patriots Day to you. That's what I call January 6th. God bless President Trump on his way to January 20th. This is the next step. We're almost there, folks. We are almost there. Stinchfield's Army rolls because of all of you. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.